Back now with our panel. Well, this race has been close from the very beginning, but Stu, you have made the point. You saw a shift just a couple of weeks ago.
About a month ago, Bob. When you looked at the end of September, right before that first presidential debate, it looked like, when you fast forwarded a month, it looked like we'd be sitting here and we would know who was going to win. And that first debate fundamentally altered the race. It fundamentally raised some questions with some swing voters, white working class voters, about the president, about his enthusiasm, energy. But also it changed the image and impression of Mitt Romney. Suddenly he became not the ideologue, but more the problem solver, the business guy, not simply the conservative Tea Party Republican. Most of us don't think he ever was a conservative Tea Party Republican, but the Democrats saw that image. And that debate, I think, fundamentally changed things. And if you look at the most recent polls in terms of image, Mitt Romney's favorable is significantly up. A number of polls have him virtually even with the president. So Romney's reputation and his ability to alter the initial picture of him, the Democrats ran, ads over the summer and going right before the conventions, Mitt Romney doesn't care about you. The debate changed everything.
So why is that, Larry?
Well, it was because, I guess, what, a couple $100 million was spent defining Romney in negative terms, and then people saw him up close and said, gee, he's not such a bad guy. So the real life contradicted the television advertising. But, Bob, just to add a footnote here, I agree with what Stu has said about October 3rd, the first debate, but I also look in close races for the last-minute trend that may lift one candidate a point, a critical point. What happened this last week? Hurricane Sandy lifted President Obama because he was presidential, and Mitt Romney was forced off the stage for 3 days, and the president dodged a bullet on jobs on Friday. Those two things in combination, I think, pushed Obama up and over the top in several of these very close states.
Let's let Anna and
a couple
Leslie
things. I mean, first of all, Mitt
that.
Romney had to run as a right-wing Tea Party guy in the primary, so it wasn't just Democratic money. He defined himself that way, and the Republican platform was about as conservative as ever been, so it wasn't just Democratic money that sort of created that image. I think, though, that to follow up on Larry's point, I think that the economy, people actually, if you look at people's perception of the economy and the number of people who say it's getting better or worse or the same, the better number has been going up. If you look at people's assessment of the economy, consumer confidence has been going up. This job report is not dodging a bullet. It's actually consistent with what most Americans think about the economy, that it's getting better. They don't think it's great. They think we still need to do a lot. But we are actually in a much better place than we were, even on direction of the country. We still have a majority of people saying the country's going in the wrong direction, but it's about 15 points down from 2010 and 2008. So I think that, the jobs report actually built upon a narrative that people actually feel like the economy's getting better.
Do you think that the storm hurt Mitt Romney, Leslie?
I think it benefited the president. Let's put it that way, which is a distinct difference. I agree, he looked very presidential, and Governor Christie looked good. At this point, the sad case of this is when you see true bipartisanship, people are skeptical. Like in the media, we're like, why are they working together? That's what government is supposed to be doing. That's what was frustrating about the coverage and just the way people talked about it. I think it's America coming together for the better part of America, for the best interest of America. So very good. Now that you have the residual effect of it's a bigger storm than people anticipated, the recovery is going to be more difficult. There's some aftermath. I agree with Peggy Noonan, probably. You're not going to know until later really where the blame and such falls. But to the point of the economy, I think it's very important. There's some basic past statistics, important things. 1,800 people a day are losing their homes in foreclosures. You have these families who are very concerned about financial stability and taking care of their parents, taking care of their children. These are the ones that are saying, these are the policies of President Obama that has put us here. I like him personally, but I don't necessarily agree that he's going to be part of the solution. And he has yet to offer one word of solace or solution that gives them that relief. That's why the momentum, I would couple it with the election of 2010, is with Republicans, closing the gap in Colorado, in Virginia, and in Ohio. And that's what's the tilt.
Anthony?
On the point about the economy and on bipartisanship, it's interesting. Even on what might be objective facts, we see a partisan split. Most Democrats think the economy is doing okay. Most Republicans in polls say that it's bad. So they can't even agree on that, but it's also part of why this thing ends up at so close to 50-50 today. So when we look at the exit polls on Tuesday night and we're talking about views on the economy, remember that there's a lot of that partisan coloration in there too.
And I would simply add to that, I agree entirely. I think we could have predicted this. I think most of us did expect this kind of election a year or two ago. Why? Without looking at all these polls over the last 6 months. Why? Because the country is evenly divided between Republicans and Democrats, liberals and conservatives, folks on the coast and folks in the middle. Some people in the middle think like folks on the coast if you live in Asheville, North Carolina, or if you live in Austin, Texas.
Or the Midwest.
This is the country.
What about, let's talk about the Congress, the House and the Senate. I think most people think the House is going to stay Republican. 53 Democrats in the Senate now, 47 Republicans. Is that going to stay about the same? Or
Yes, I think it's going to be almost exactly the same, which is amazing because the Democrats have far more seats to defend than the Republicans do this year, and you had more Democrats retiring. This was a great opportunity for Republicans. If I had to guess, I would say Democrats would end up with 52 or 53 seats. They have 53 now. In the House, you're going to get about the same number of Republicans you've got now. It relates to the 50-50 country. We could end up with a 50-50 nation and a status quo election with the incumbents essentially reelected in all three parts of the federal government.
And what's kind of interesting about that, I can't recall a time in my lifetime when the approval rating for the Congress has been lower than it is, and yet we wind up with the same cast of characters. So why is that, Stu?
I think it's clear that Democrats blame Republicans, Republicans blame Democrats. Everybody can agree that they don't like Congress, although Congress's numbers have started to inch up over the past few weeks, but still held in low regard. But each side is blaming the other guy. No, I think Larry is right. We're going to see minimal changes in the House, anything from a tiny Republican gain to a modest Democratic gain. The Senate, we're anywhere from no change to a Republican gain of 2 or 3 seats. And the Senate is disappointing for the Republicans. They're not going to win a seat in Missouri. They should have won. They may well are likely to lose a seat in Indiana. They should have held on.
And redistricting had a lot to do with that, too, as you've written about so well. You know, Republicans often consolidated their gains, and Democrats hung on to theirs, and there just aren't that many competitive districts in the House now.
Well, and there's also some structural problems, which is in 2008, a lot of the seats that Democrats won and then lost in 2010 were basically Republican seats. So there are fewer opportunities to pick up. I think that Democrats will pick up 2 to 4, maybe 6 seats tops, but it's just going to be a long slog back to majority. It's not going to happen in a wave.
Let's end this panel as I did the other one, and I'll start with you guys here on the end. What will we be saying next week around this table, and why will we say the person who won?
That the momentum was definitely a part of the 2010 election. With Republicans, it was a continuation, 24 months later, moving to change the government.
You know, it'll be Obama re-elected because people agree with his vision on the economy and the status of women in society.
All right. Well, that settles it. Well, it doesn't settle it because I'm told we have 30 seconds more.
Oh, gosh. Down on the spot. I think next week we'll be saying, boy, that was an awfully late night, Bob.
I'm with you. All right, Larry, quickly.
Status quo election, and we're facing a really tough, divided, gridlocked 4 years.
Divided government, how are we going to deal with these tough problems that we haven't over the last 2? How are we going to do them in the next 2?
All right. Well, thank you all. We'll be back with our Face the Nation flashback, and it's a good one. Stay with us. We're still the place where we hope people will go to find out if something they heard is true or false. Sunday morning shows have become a part of Washington. They're the place where Washington talks to each other. So if somebody has something they want to announce, they come